I wanted to point out this main ridge behind us is a place, I call it a predator highway. So between Thanksgiving and March 1st, this is a place where there's a lot of mountain lion activity. So what I found over the 10 years in looking for places to photograph and videotape mountain lions, so I look for these things. Number one, you have to have groceries. So there's got to be winter range for deer and elk. Number two, between New Mexico up into Canada, along the front range of the Rockies, these north-south ridges provide a great place for lions to hunt at night, and they'll hunt the windward side, the other side of this ridge. The wind is coming our direction from the ridge, so they hunt the other side with their nose, the windward side, and they can go along the top of this flat ridge, walking along, and hunt that windward side without burning a lot of calories. I'd hike up to this ridge and I'd find, when there was fresh snow on the ground, and I would find where mountain lions were making a scrape, and I would just look for male tracks, and I would follow that track in the direction where there was more fresh snow. And so half the time I would find a male lion track, and then half the time when I found a track, I would find a scrape. And a scrape is where they're moving the duff, the material on top of the ground, including the snow, just like a cat uses a litter box, and they'd move it. And so over about 3.5 years, I documented that what I found in relation to the scrape. Number one, that a male lion, where there's ponderosa pine available, and the ponderosa pine drop a lot of needles, they would rarely make a scrape where the duff layer above the soil was less than 3 inches. So, and then I would mark all these scrape sites with a GPS and see if there was a relationship to something that I might be able to see on Google Earth. Then I would set up cameras on these scrapes, and the male lion would come back to that scrape 100% of the time within 7 to 10 days. 100% of the time, to check it. Maybe to check it to see if another male lion was encroaching on his territory, but he'd come back to check it, and I would get pictures and video. Then over 3.5 years, I realized they were making scrapes where the duff layer was thicker, and then I looked out on Google Earth, and it was where all these ponderosa pine trees were clumped together. And so I thought, well, I don't have to look at the whole ridge anymore. Now, if I go to a new area, which I did up by Livermore, north of west of Fort Collins, similar habitat, and I just went to the places where the ponderosa pine cover was the heaviest. Everything else was the same, north-south ridge, winter range for deer and elk, and that's where I found all the scrapes. So that reduced the amount of time I had to spend looking for a site to set up a camera by like 90%.